The Supreme Court has ended the era of nationwide injunctions, a legal tool that, for years, allowed a single federal judge to halt government policies for the entire country with the stroke of a pen. Now, no longer can one judge, sitting in a single district, block a government policy from coast to coast. This marks a significant change in how federal courts interact with executive power. In the landmark case Trump v. Casa Inc., the court ruled 6-3 that federal judges must limit the relief they grant to only the actual parties involved in a lawsuit, rather than issuing sweeping orders that affect the entire nation. Previously, a single judge could halt a presidential order or federal regulation nationwide, instantly impacting millions of people and government operations. Now, only the plaintiffs who actually bring the case to court are protected by the judge's ruling, leaving everyone else unaffected unless they file their own lawsuits. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, writing for the majority, described nationwide injunctions as a modern invention, one that is not rooted in the long-standing traditions of American law or the Constitution. The decision returns judicial power to a more limited traditional role, instructing lower courts to resolve disputes only for those directly before them, rather than setting national policy from the bench. This fundamentally changes how legal challenges to federal actions will proceed, forcing opponents of government policies to rethink their strategies and possibly file multiple lawsuits in different jurisdictions. The ruling marks a dramatic and historic shift in the balance of power between the courts and the executive branch, reshaping the landscape of American law and the way future legal battles will unfold. The legal battle began when President Trump issued an executive order that sent shockwaves through the nation. The order aimed to end birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to non-citizen parents, a right long considered fundamental under the Constitution. Civil rights groups quickly filed lawsuits arguing the order violated constitutional protections. Lower courts responded by issuing nationwide injunctions, temporarily blocking the order's enforcement, until the Supreme Court intervened and struck those injunctions down. The justices did not rule on whether the executive order itself is constitutional. Instead, they focused on the limits of judicial power, narrowing the reach of court orders. Now, a single judge can only block the order for the specific families who brought the lawsuit, not for everyone nationwide. This creates a confusing patchwork. One family's child may receive citizenship, while a similar family in another state or region may not, depending on where lawsuits are filed and won. Legal experts warn this could make basic rights depend on geography, resources, and access to the courts, raising concerns about fairness and equality. Opponents of the order must now file lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions, multiplying legal battles and increasing the complexity of the fight. The burden to challenge federal policy has grown dramatically, leaving many families uncertain about their children's future and the meaning of citizenship itself. The Supreme Court's decision split the nation along deep and bitter political lines, exposing the sharp divisions that have come to define American society in recent years. President Trump hailed it as a sweeping victory for executive authority, declaring it a crucial step toward ending what he called judicial overreach and restoring power to the presidency. The liberal justices, led by Sonia Sotomayor, issued a stark warning, arguing that the ruling dangerously weakens the checks and balances that protect American democracy and leaves many vulnerable people unprotected. Sotomayor argued passionately that only those with the means and resources to sue will have their rights defended, creating a system of inequality and potential chaos for those without power or influence. Supporters, on the other hand, insist the ruling is necessary to curb what they see as undemocratic judicial activism and to ensure that elected officials, not judges, make the nation's laws. Critics, however, argue that the decision removes a vital safeguard, making it harder for ordinary citizens to challenge government overreach and protect their rights in court. The debate now centers on a fundamental question: should courts act as a brake on government power, or should they defer to the will of elected branches even at the risk of unchecked authority? With this decision, the court has now firmly and unmistakably limited the judiciary's reach, setting the stage for new battles over the balance of power in America. The legal fight isn't over, it's just changed shape. Lower courts must now revise their orders to protect only the plaintiffs, not the nation. Civil rights groups are pivoting to class action lawsuits, hoping to protect larger groups under the new rules. The Supreme Court's decision forces Americans to reconsider the balance between judicial restraint and protecting rights. Limiting judges' power respects democracy, but may leave some vulnerable to unconstitutional policies. The coming months will see a flurry of lawsuits as both sides test the new legal landscape. The battle over executive power, judicial authority, and individual rights is far from settled.